sounds awesome.
We're time to see what we're here for, though.
You guys have a perfect example right now of not honestly. This is a really common this classroom is essentially like so kind of normal, but sometimes he doesn't want to leave, and that's okay.
And it's funny because it just shows, these cats are very animals and the smallest things are always just actually boxes for nature. So there's just boxes out there that normally aren't out there. So just
Options sometimes right there. He just yeah. He's like, thank you. It's funny too. Little Foot, obviously, beautiful animal.
Just checking you guys out.
Before we get started this morning, we normally just give you guys a second to take in the fact that Little Foot is now in the room. You guys are sharing space with him. And he is purring, so you guys listen for him. Yes, yeah. Give you guys a second to take that in.
Well, right about there is where I was like, oh hell no, there's a whole cheetah in the room. And Shorty in the gray cardigan, she was a little too calm because the cheetah came in and instantly was really interested in her, like staring over there, leaning forward, smelling, growling, and all that shit. I was happy I was on the other side of the room, to be honest.
Yeah, so we normally talk just a little bit about the cheetah and pretty much everything there is to know about cheetahs, and then as well as the individual Little Foot that's in the room. But if anyone has any questions that you guys want to start off the bat, or while I talk about them later, you guys can feel free, since it's a little bit of a smaller group, to interrupt at any point and just kind of ask whatever's on your mind. But if there's anything that you guys want to start with, that's totally fine too.
How old is the cheetah?
That's a great question. So Little Foot, we have two cheetah here at the Bronx Zoo, and we have Little Foot, who's in the classroom with us right now, and his brother Triton, and they're both 4 years old. And Finn is one of Little Foot's best friends. I'll talk a little bit about him in a minute, but he's 4 years old as well. Does anyone happen to know Finn's role? Why Finn? Did anyone expect Finn to walk into the room this morning? Were you guys expecting to see a dog come in to the program? Yeah? Cool.
Just from seeing it on the show.
Just from seeing it on the show. Okay, cool.
I might have said something.
I always just like to know, because sometimes if it's not mentioned, I just like to see people's reaction of why a dog would be coming in with them. So does anyone know Finn's role of why his job at laying down over there and being a good boy is so important? It's actually, yeah, exactly. So it's to keep him calm. Finn is a cheetah companion dog. These guys have been together since they were 2 months old, actually. So essentially, they've known each other for almost their entire lives. And so it's been found through a lot of different facilities and research that have done it before us that when being raised with the dogs, the cheetah will actually seek out the dogs for comfort as well as for confidence. So you guys probably might have noticed Brittany walked in first with Finn, and Finn kind of sized you up too, flopped down and laid down, and that kind of signaled to Little Foot that everything was good, you guys were all good, so they can kind of have the same, calmness in the room. So it's actually really important. And now that I did just mention Finn and Brittany, I realized I didn't introduce anybody, so I apologize. In addition to Littlefoot this morning, we have Jason and Kira, who are essentially Littlefoot's littermates at this point. The two of them got to help raise Littlefoot, and they've been involved in his life since he was just 10 days old. So we'll get into that a little bit later too. But so we have Jason and Kira, and then we have Finn and Brittany this morning. And one of the first things too that you guys will also probably notice when we walk in is that Littlefoot has 2 different apparatuses on him. And we actually have to have that. So we are an ACA accredited facility, which is the Association of Zoos as well as aquariums. And they do make different rules and regulations as far as when it comes to educational programs like these. And so ACA actually says that you have to have 2 different ways of having the cheetah with you at all times. And so that's why we have that. Jason and Kira and us as keepers are able to enter the space completely with the cheetah without those, but since you guys are in the room, that is why they have those different apparatuses.
How much exercise do they need?
So they have a huge exercise yard, and that is their option of if they want to do it or not. And I use it in that way because cheetah will actually only run and hit top speeds if they're hunting. And so we provide them with all the food that they could possibly want, or that is healthy for them, I should say. And so they're not going to really fully hit top speeds, but they could if they wanted to. We do have a very large exercise yard outside that they go outside several times a day in. Littlefoot's definitely our runner. If there is a cheetah outside running, I almost always can bet that it is Littlefoot. He likes to get out there and really open up. Triton, his brother, not so much. I have nicknamed him a professional clobber. He gets out there and he'll run for a good 5 to 10 seconds after his brother in the morning when they get really excited, and then he will find a puddle, a leaf pile, a nice sunny spot, and he will plop there and lay there until it's time to eat again. So the exercise definitely depends on the individual, but they are able to get as much as they need. We always kind of joke around that you guys had a long walk here this morning, and we apologize, but we also kind of don't because that's our length of our exercise yard. It's very important for them. So they get several different times to go out during the day.
Yeah, we also try to vary when they're outside different enrichment items. So we've spent so much money on different lure systems and ways of hanging their food and different apparatuses. And it's funny because their favorite toy is a hard orange ball. It's literally, they're like a house cat when they go out into the yard. We'll throw it out in the yard and they'll just swat it around for a while. And then when they're done with it, the dogs will retrieve it and bring it in for us. So it's a nice system that we all worked out with everybody.
What is the current status of the population in the wild?
That is a very important question. And so, unfortunately, cheetah definitely need our help. African cheetah are Africa's most threatened cat right now. Unfortunately, there are less than 7,100 individuals. And then the Asiatic cheetah, which can be found in Iran, is down to 49 individuals.
Like a breeding program?
So we don't, but
Or can you, like, loan them out?
so actually starting a little bit, the reason why they came here to us at the Bronx Zoo is actually because they were going to be ambassador animals. Their genes were already well represented in the zoo field. So it's actually not as simple as just, hoping for cheetah babies and sending them somewhere. I wish it could be that simple, but especially with cheetahs, since they are not doing that great out in nature, it's really important for zoos to have a genetic diversity when it comes to the genes that these animals have. So there is an entire team of people in the zoo field that it's called the SSP, the Species Survival Plan. And it's an entire team of people that get together and study the genetics of all of the cheetahs that can be found in any zoological facility. And so when Triton and Littlefoot were born, it came out that their genes were already pretty well represented. There wasn't going to be a call for them to breed. So instead, they are ambassador animals. There are different programs all around the United States for cheetah in zoological facilities. So we're working on that in other zoos, but Triton and Littlefoot are not going to be.
Yeah, they just recently, I believe it was February 19th, there were 2 cheetah cubs born at the Columbus Zoo through IVF, which is huge. It's amazing. It was the first litter of cubs ever born through this way. So what they had is they actually had sperm from a male that was down in Texas with a female egg donor that was in Columbus. She was at 8 years old, the egg donor, genetically super important, but too old to start breeding. So they actually implanted that embryo, several embryos, into one of their younger females, Izzy, who's about 3 years old, and she gave birth to 2 successful cheetah cubs. So that is huge. It's amazing that they had such success with this because it's been attempted 3 times previously and it never took. So it's really exciting. It's really important because that can be huge for our wild counterparts. And there's animals that are taken from the wild, which I'll let Brittany get into in a little bit, that by doing the IVF could really be beneficial in saving these guys. So I'll let Brittany talk a little bit about CCF, which is our Cheetah Conservation Fund, which we are huge supporters of, and we always like to brag about them because of the amazing work they do for the cheetah.
Yeah, so Caroline mentioned their numbers in the wild and that they're not doing well, but cheetahs do have a modern day hero, and her name is actually Dr. Lori Marker. So Lori was actually a zookeeper back in the 80s out west, and she was really the one that pioneered pairing out the cheetah with a dog. So at the time, she had a lone cheetah cub, and it's not unusual for the mother to actually reject that cub in the wild. So at the time, she had a puppy, and she just wanted to see what would happen when you introduced the two, and that's really what started this. She found that the cheetah will look to the dog as a companion, but also for cues and give it confidence as well. So then, years later, Lori now runs the CCF, which Kara mentioned, the Cheetah Conservation Fund. She moved to Africa, a country called Namibia, with the cheetah and actually the dog that she had, and now she helps to protect the wild population as well. So she has a really great exchange program with farmers out there because farmers are actually, unfortunately, known to wrongfully prosecute these guys if they see a cheetah in the area and if their livestock happens to be missing. These guys are diurnal hunters, which isn't all that usual for cats. So if a farmer wakes up and he finds that the livestock is missing, he sees a cheetah in the area, he might either poison the carcass that might be in the area, or would actually kill the cat. So what she does is she does actually do an exchange program where she will give the farmer a shepherding dog, an Anatolian actually, which if you're familiar with the breed, is a pretty large dog, and just the presence of that dog is enough to keep a shy cheetah away from the livestock. And then she also works on really educating them and letting them know why cheetahs are important to continue to conserve. So recently she actually had a farmer call her up and tell her that he had actually trapped a mother and some cubs. And historically those animals would have just been killed, but Lori was able to actually take them.
It's a very cool organization. The cheetah are actually starting to make a comeback in the area where Lori is, so it's very important. And unfortunately, one of their biggest threats is the pet trade. She has so many animals in her amazing facility from them. Unfortunately, like Brittany mentioned, they're an extremely cautious and wary animal. One of the reasons why having a dog is so important. And because of that, it's very easy for, like Brittany mentioned, for people to drop them. And unfortunately, for every photo of a cheetah sitting on top of a luxurious car, odds are it had 4 siblings that didn't make it through the process because of the conditions that they have to live in through the black market. In fact, less than 5% of animals will survive through black market conditions. So it is very important to support zoological facilities that are doing their best and other organizations such as CCF because we truly are making such a difference for the species. And even by being here today, you guys have done your part as well. The Wildlife Conservation Society gives back to so many different conservation efforts all over the world, so just by joining us today, you guys have done your part as well. Anyone have any other questions? Very soft.
It feels dirty. It does. To be honest with you, it feels dirty. They groom themselves in selective areas, I would say. So if you go down their back, they feel kind of gross. They're not the most clean animals.
Is he smelling something of us that's of interest to him?
Most likely. So anything different, I mean, it's our job to make sure that he is desensitized or used to pretty much, anything that can come in here. So it was actually really fun for these guys. You guys are part of a training session right now. And so when they first started getting the cats used to the programs, it was kind of like, they see this every day. Black shirt, blue shirt, green pants, boots. That's all. So you have to kind of think of it from an animal's perspective of never really seeing, perfumes, hats. Baseball hats used to be really scary for them, big flowy dresses. And so, even wheelchairs, crutches, things that people are going to bring in that, they just have never seen before. So it's our job to make them feel as comfortable as possible with all of those things that people can bring in. Even, coming into the winter season, it's like, oh, you haven't seen big, poofy winter jackets in a whole year. So even things like that, too, sometimes, So I think anything that's different could just be different for him, too. And just like you would, if you smelled something either bad or good to you, you're going to kind of look around and see where it is and just kind of, research it. So that's exactly what they do.
Now, do the dogs live with them? Like, sleep with them? Every day with them?
Yeah, so the only time we actually ever separate them is for two different reasons. The first is eating. Anyone is familiar with labs? When I started, I was like, oh, it's because the cheetah will eat the dog's food. No, it's because the labs are literal vacuum cleaners and they will eat every little piece before the cheetah. So, just so everybody gets their proper diet, we'll separate them for feeding time and then for sleeping time as well. Not to say that you won't look out in the exercise yard and see them passed out together on top of each other. It's at night that we'll actually separate them for, just because the dogs constantly want to play and the cats really enjoy sleeping. So just so that they actually can, get some rest, we'll separate them at night. The very cool thing about our building is that they can see, pretty much feel, and hear each other through their enclosures. So if for whatever reason overnight the cats did need their dogs for comfort, they're still right there, which is really cool.
It also gives us the opportunity to spoil the dogs with our comfy dog beds and chew toys and things that the cheetah would just destroy.
Now, are these the only two cheetahs you have now?
Yes.
Okay. You did have more, no?
They were out on an exhibit a while ago.
Yeah, so it's actually the hyena exhibit right now. So they used to have cheetahs. They were before my time, so my understanding was that they were an older collection, but as they kind of just died out, they thought that exhibit would be a better space for hyena, which is why they have them there. But we always joke around that we're trying to get the cheetahs in new areas so that everybody would be able to see the dogs and the cheetah interacting, because we get to see it all the time, and it's amazing to see the interaction with the four of them have. So we always joke that we'd like to see the cheetahs and the dogs interacting, write letters in, because we think that it would be great for everybody to be able to experience it. Because right now, unless you guys come to this program, you don't see the cheetah. So it's very selective for right now, certain opportunities with them.
So you guys might have noticed throughout the entire time today in the classroom that Jason has been asking Little Foot for different behaviors. We call them behaviors. We never call them tricks in the zoo fields or fields. We don't call them that. There's nothing magical about what's happening. It's actually just getting the animal as best taken care of as possible. So I'd like you to touch a little bit more about why it's so important of what you guys are seeing.
So being that cheetah are very wary individuals, we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to keep these guys nice and happy here and to not introduce any stress into their lives. But being that they're in a zoological facility, we need to make sure that these guys are in tip-top shape while we do have them here. So we've trained them in this behavior in the event that they ever eat something they're not supposed to, if they have something going on with their stomach. We can actually put an ultrasound probe right on their belly, really get in there. We give them annual vaccines, so we ask the cats to put their heads up against the side of the enclosure. The vet stays safely on one side because the vets get a really bad rap with any animal around here. And they get their vaccines just like your cat and dog would at home. And then they get blood taken for their annual physical. And there's a really great vein that runs through their tail. So what we'll do is we'll shave a spot at the base of their tail, get the vein, get a quick blood sample, and send them on their day. And these are all just done because we are constantly training them. They get a meal that we break up between 4 separate feeding times. One, because it gives us 4 opportunities to train them, which is great for them for mentally stimulating them. But it's also really good because cheetah are known for getting gastritis. So if they have one big, large meal, if we really upset them, they can have a lot of digestive issues. So we like to space out their meals in into smaller increments so that they can have a nice healthy gut flora going on. As Caroline mentioned earlier, Triton is not, so cheetahs generally will retract their claws, they're always out. So Little Foot does a really good job wearing them down while he's running, but Triton does not, since he doesn't run as much. So we had to train him to trim his nails, because if anybody has a house cat at home, you know trimming nails is very difficult. It's even more difficult with the cheetahs, so what we had to do is train them to stand on his back feet, put him on the front gate enclosure, so that we can stand one side and just clip his nails for him. And that behavior is really good for Little Foot as well, because if he ever injures a pad while he's out running or cracks a nail, we can treat it. But all the behaviors that we train for them are really just to make their lives as stress-free and easy as we can. They are trained to walk over to our health center, which is 2 buildings over, and sit at an x-ray table. So if they're in the yard, they break a leg or a toe or anything, they're trained. It's not going to be something that's incredibly scary for them while they're dealing with pain as well. It'll just be something routine. They walk over, they sit in a certain position, and we'll be able to figure out what's going on with them. So we train all these things before we actually need them. It's just to help these guys out as best we can.
So where they're living at the zoo, is it close to the wild in terms of mountains, trees, that kind of thing, or is it just a regular kind of room setup?
In their outside, yeah, so they have a couple different areas actually. They're spoiled. They have 2 indoor areas, 2 outdoor areas of their own, and then a huge exercise yard that they're able to utilize as well. And so all of those things look a little bit different, which is really important too, to give them different variety. So our exercise yard consists of trees, grass, dirt areas, timothy, hay areas, anything like that. We'll give them different things outside too as well that we can change up for them. They also have an outside little dirt area that they can go into if they want. And then inside looks a little bit different too, but same substrate and different things that they can use.
Yeah, even in their indoor enclosures, they all have skylights, so they have natural light cycles, which is really something that we've really loved having in this building, because our old building, we didn't have that luxury, so that's really great.
Does his tail like move when he gets excited like a dog?
Exactly. That like tail flipping that you're seeing right now, that is a, I'm happy, I'm relaxed, I'm just going to move my tail around. But their tail is actually really important when they're running. So if you ever see a cheetah run, you'll see that their tail is either completely back and turned upwards or even on higher, because it acts like a rudder for when they're running. And when they run, it's incredible to see, because they can make these twists and turns and just stop on a dime. So we'll go out to the exercise yard with them to call them in, and the cheetah will just make a beeline for you. And it can be intimidating, because it's a full-grown cheetah. Right? We've been with them forever, but you still have to second guess that, and you can never let that guard down that they are still a wild animal. But the cheetah will come and they'll run at you and they'll stop and they'll go right around you, and the dogs will be, right behind them and just knock you out. They're not as agile as the cheetah are, so we've all experienced being taken out by the dogs before while they're trying to cheetah.
It's a cute 4-man coalition. We haven't fully decided if the dogs think they're cheetah or the cheetah think they're dogs, but either way, all 4 of them together is pretty cool for me.
Now, how many zoos actually do this same process?
So there, I feel like you might know a number. There's 8.
So when we first started doing it, we were late to the game. So we were, I think, the 6th zoo to start doing this within the United States. But Turtleback Zoo in New Jersey just recently started doing this program. So I believe we're up to 8 now. And a lot of people will do these programs differently. They'll have a program such as this, but a lot of people will also have a lure system. And they'll actually have a lure that the cheetah will go out and they'll chase. What we have found in the zoo world is that females run a lot better than the males do, so meaning that we have 2 males and we have one who doesn't even like to play running. He wouldn't really benefit from that, but that's always something that we think of in the future. If we ever acquire more cheetah, if anybody else, any other cheetahs need a home, that might be something we could do as well.
Did Columbus Zoo start the program?
Well, actually, Dr. Roy Marker started it, technically, but I believe it was Columbus. Columbus has a huge cheetah program out there. They have about 20 cheetah that they do different programs with, and 4 dogs. It's a lot of fun going out there to visit them, because we kind of went to them to seek guidance, because this is a brand new thing for us. We had no idea what we were doing. So we went out to San Diego, we went out to Columbus and Cincinnati to just try to figure out how all the other places are doing this and figure out what works for us. Was anybody in here earlier today? Any animals? Yeah, very keen on something before.
A huge common question that we get all the time is what Little Foot's eating. So he gets 3 different things. He gets, it's called Nebraska, and it's a carnivore zoo-based diet. And it's premium, which means it's the best of the best.
He does not want to go back
in.
in.
If it's not premium. Then they get shank, cut off of the bone, which they very much enjoy. And then Little Foot happens to be a giant fan of chicken. His brother, not so much. This is also my favorite example too of, I'm not sure if we worded it before, but I think clearly you guys can see that everything in the zoo world, especially here, is completely voluntary. If Littlefoot chooses not to participate, even if he didn't feel like coming to the classroom at all, sometimes if he doesn't want to come out, we'll see if Triton wanted to come out. If neither of them did, we apologize. I'll show you guys another animal. Everything is on their terms, so if they choose not to do something, that's all. They're going to get their entire diet anyway. And you guys have the perfect example right now of Littlefoot not wanting to leave. This is a really common mistake. This classroom is essentially a playroom for him. It's one of his favorite spaces, so it's kind of normal that sometimes he doesn't want to leave, and that's okay.
And it's funny because it just shows, these cats are very, very animals. They notice when, even the smallest thing is different. At the end of our hallway, we just actually got a bunch of boxes for enrichment, which I haven't opened yet. So there's just boxes out there that normally are not there. So just little, don't worry, I'm sure there's something in there for you to play with.
He likes to look at himself in the reflection sometimes right there. He just, yeah, exactly. He's like, thank you. It's funny too, because Littlefoot, he's obviously a beautiful animal, but him and his brother look a little bit different. So Littlefoot always has a little bit of like a grumpy cat based on he can be as content as can be, but he just always looks like that. And his brother Triton goes right back to hers. His brother Triton always has these big teddy bear eyes and mostly has his tongue out. So.
Yeah, buddy, want to wait? You don't have to go. Hang out.
Littlefoot is known sometimes to sometimes hold you guys hostage. It's okay, you just get an extra 10 minutes with the cheetah. Another really cool thing, one of my favorite facts about cheetahs is that their spots go all the way down to their skin. So for whatever weird reason, if you wanted to shave a cheetah completely, they're still going to have spots, which is really cool. And they're different to the individual, so that is what makes Littlefoot Littlefoot. Their tail patterns can also differentiate as well, but one of the main ways that you can tell them apart is by their spot patterns, which is cool. And then looking at the animal in general, cheetah are natural born athletes. Kira mentioned a little before, they're not able to retract their claws fully, so they essentially have cleats on their feet. They can hit top speeds in just 3 seconds from 0 to 75 miles per hour, which is crazy, in just 3 seconds flat. So their feet are built for that. And they also have valor stripes, which are the same thing that football players have. They have those black stripes on their face. That's actually because, like Brittany mentioned before, they hunt during the day. The sun's out in Africa, it's very hot. And so to help them out, like having the best vision, they have those too. Kira mentioned before, their tail is like a rudder. That's really important for them as well. And their entire body is made for running too. They actually have smaller nostrils than other cats and a smaller mouth as well because their lungs are actually larger so that they can run faster. So their whole body is actually made to be the fastest land mammal, which is pretty cool.
So because their mouths are smaller, do they catch the prey primarily with their claws?
So they can, definitely. So they will run as fast as they can, and normally what they actually do, since there's no one small in the room, I can say it, they will normally go and get the prey from their neck, and they actually have to drag it away from where they got it normally because they need to actually rest before they eat. Because when they do hit those top speeds of 70 to 75 miles per hour, it takes everything out of the animal. So they actually have to rest, believe it or not, normally, which is kind of cool if you think about it, but also fortunate for them that while they are resting because they need to, a lot of times other animals will come up and just take whatever they got. And again, just because of their cautious, wary nature, they'll go away from that and unfortunately lose a lot of their kill.
Yeah, in terms of maintaining top speed, they have to actually catch their prey in 30 seconds or less.
Spend a lot of time stalking.
Parking in the corner.
So Finn and Norton came to us. We actually reached out to our friends at Columbus Zoo, and Susie Rapp has a great program there, like we mentioned before, and she recommended the breeder for Finn and Norton. Norton is our black lab, so we do have another dog as well. And Finn is a lot more calmer, and Norton sometimes is high energy and always ready. So they have different personalities as well. But so she recommended both of them, and they came to us from there. And if you're like me, you're probably wondering how on earth we ever introduced them. These guys actually, like I mentioned, met each other at just 2 months old, right here in this classroom, which is another reason why this is one of Little Foot's favorite places.
Aww.
And so we definitely are overthinkers in the zoo field in general, but here, our animals are our version of kids and family. We spend our entire lives taking care of them, so we definitely tend to overthink as far as their safety and stuff come. So we were like, all right, we'll give them shirts that smell like each other and so on, and we reached out to our friends again, and they were like, just put them together. So the dogs came through that door, and the cheetah cubs came through this one, and they kind of dogpiled and played for a couple minutes, and then just passed out on top of each other. That's still what they do today.
Do you guys have any last questions? Since Triton, obviously, Littlefoot's going to hang out in the corner. We're going to slowly kind of get out of the room and let him do his thing. But if you don't have any last questions, we can start. You guys can start with you guys. You can head out right here.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
He said, where you going, guys? Over here now. I want to walk out first? It's okay.
Want to sit down?
I don't want to go there.
We have more programs.
Okay.
Hey, you guys are good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.